Over 60 swollen legs? Texto principle. This reduced swelling fast. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself why your legs feel heavier at the end of the day, even when you did everything right? That question hit me harder than I expected, because for years I told myself the swelling, the tight shoes, the tired calves were just part of being over 60. I was walking every day. I was staying active. I was doing what everyone says you should do. And yet, something wasn't adding up. I remember standing in the kitchen one evening, holding onto the counter, feeling this strange mix of fatigue and instability. My legs weren't in pain, but they felt dense, almost unresponsive. Not weak in an obvious way, just unreliable. And that scared me more than I like to admit. Because when your legs stop feeling dependable, everything changes. Your confidence while walking shifts. Your posture changes without you noticing. Even simple movements start to feel calculated. At first, I ignored it. I told myself walking more would fix it. Longer walks, more steps, more effort. But the swelling kept coming back. The heaviness didn't disappear. And what worried me most was the subtle loss of balance. Nothing dramatic, no falls. Just that quiet moment where you hesitate before turning or widen your stance without realizing why. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about age alone. It was about circulation, control, and stability slowly slipping away while I was focused on the wrong solution. Walking was keeping me busy, but it wasn't addressing what my body was actually asking for. My legs didn't need more distance. They needed better activation, better flow, better signals between my brain and my muscles. The real wake-up call came when I noticed the swelling wasn't random. It followed patterns, certain times of day, certain routines, and that told me something important. This was functional, not inevitable, which meant it could change. I didn't need extreme workouts, machines, or complicated routines. I needed one movement that spoke directly to circulation, balance, and leg strength at the same time. And once I understood that, everything I thought I knew about staying active after 60 started to shift. Before I continue, let me pause here for a moment, because this part really matters. If anything I've said so far feels familiar, the leg swelling, the heaviness, that quiet loss of confidence while walking, then you're exactly who this video is for. This isn't about pushing harder or pretending everything is fine. It's about understanding what your body is actually telling you and choosing smarter, safer ways to protect your independence after 60. If this resonates with you, take a second to leave a comment below. Even something simple like your age or what you've noticed changing in your legs or balance. Reading those comments helps me shape what I share next, and it reminds you that you're not dealing with this alone. And if this perspective already helped you see your body a little differently, tap the like button. That small action tells YouTube to show this message to more people who quietly need it too. If you want to keep learning how simple movements and daily habits can improve circulation, strengthen your legs, and restore balance without medication or extreme exercise, make sure you're subscribed. Everything on this channel is built for people over 60 who want to stay steady, capable, and independent for as long as possible. Now, the next part is where things start to get uncomfortable in a good way, because I'm going to talk about why walking every day actually made my progress stall, and what that taught me. I used to believe that if I just kept walking, everything would stay under control. That was my safety net. Walking felt familiar, safe, and socially approved. Every doctor, every article, every well-meaning friend said the same thing: just keep moving, keep walking. So I did. Day after day. Same route, same pace. Same promise to myself that this was enough. But slowly, I noticed something unsettling. The walks were getting longer, yet my legs weren't feeling stronger. If anything, they felt more fatigued afterward. The swelling didn't improve. Sometimes it was worse in the evening. And balance. Balance became something I had to think about. I caught myself watching the ground more closely, especially on uneven surfaces, as if my body no longer trusted itself automatically. That's when I realized something important. Walking was keeping me active, but it wasn't making me more capable. It wasn't improving circulation in the way my legs needed. It wasn't challenging the stabilizing muscles that protect balance. And it definitely wasn't sending strong signals to my nervous system to stay sharp and responsive. Walking had become maintenance, not progress. There was a moment that really stayed with me. I was crossing a street, nothing dramatic, and I hesitated halfway across. Not because I was tired, but because my legs felt slow to respond. That tiny hesitation was a warning. Independence doesn't disappear overnight. It fades in small moments like that, when your body delays instead of reacts. I'm not saying walking is bad. It has its place. But after 60, relying on walking alone can quietly leave important systems untouched. Circulation in the lower legs, muscle activation around the ankles and hips, the balance reflexes that prevent falls. Walking moves you forward, but it doesn't always wake those systems up. That realization forced me to ask a harder question. What if the problem wasn't that I wasn't doing enough, but that I was doing the wrong thing for this stage of my life? And once I allowed myself to question that belief, I started noticing the next signal my body was sending, the one that tied strength and balance together in a way I hadn't expected. What surprised me most wasn't the weakness itself, but how quietly it showed up. I didn't wake up one day, unable to stand or afraid to walk. It was much more subtle than that. I started noticing small compensations, holding onto furniture a second longer, turning my body in stages instead of one smooth motion, standing with my feet a little wider without thinking about it. At first I brushed it off. Everyone does little adjustments as they get older, right? But then I paid attention to when it happened. It wasn't random. It showed up when my legs felt heavy, when the swelling was worse, when circulation felt sluggish. That's when it clicked for me. Strength and balance weren't separate problems. They were connected. And when one started to fade, the other followed quietly behind it. I remember trying to put on my pants one morning, standing on one leg like I always had. My foot touched the floor faster than I expected. Again, nothing dramatic. No fall. Just a clear message. My balance reflex wasn't as sharp. My leg didn't respond with the same confidence. That moment stayed with me because it wasn't about fitness. It was about control. Balance isn't just something you practice intentionally. It's something your body does automatically when circulation is good, muscles respond quickly, and your nervous system stays alert. When any of those start to weaken, balance is the first thing to suffer. And once balance feels uncertain, fear creeps in. You move differently, more cautiously, and that caution slowly steals strength even faster. That's the part no one warned me about. The cycle. Poor circulation makes legs feel heavy. Heavy legs reduce muscle activation. Less activation dulls balance. And once balance feels unreliable, you stop trusting your body. Walking more didn't break that cycle for me. It just kept me moving inside it. That's when I realized I didn't need a harder routine. I needed a smarter movement. One that could wake up circulation, strengthen the legs, and sharpen balance at the same time. And the moment I found that movement, everything started to shift in a way walking never achieved. Once I accepted that walking alone wasn't solving the real problem, I stopped looking for anything intense or complicated. I wasn't trying to train like I was 40 again. What I wanted was control. Control over my legs. Control over my balance. Control over how my body responded in everyday moments. And that's when I came across a simple exercise that didn't look impressive at all, but felt different the very first time I tried it. What caught my attention was how deliberate it was. Slow, controlled, grounded. Instead of moving forward endlessly like walking, this movement asked my legs to work against gravity in place. It forced my muscles to engage fully, especially around the ankles, calves, and hips. And almost immediately, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Awareness. My legs weren't just moving, they were responding. The first few repetitions felt awkward. Not painful, just revealing. I could feel where I was weak, where circulation seemed slow, where balance wanted to drift. But instead of ignoring those signals, the exercise demanded that I stay present. Every second required focus, my feet pressing into the floor, my weight shifting with intention, my posture staying tall and steady. What surprised me most was what happened afterward. My legs felt warm, not tired, not heavy, just alive. That familiar swelling sensation didn't show up the same way later in the day. And when I walked across the room, I felt more stable, even though I hadn't done anything extreme. It was the first time I realized that improving balance isn't about doing more, it's about activating the right systems. This exercise didn't replace walking entirely, but it did something walking never did for me. It trained my legs to support me, not just carry me forward. It improved circulation by forcing blood to move through the lower legs more effectively. And it sharpened the connection between my brain and my muscles, which is where real balance begins. That's when I knew I was onto something. Because for the first time in a long while, my body didn't feel like it was just getting through the day. It felt prepared. And over the next few days, I started noticing changes that went far beyond that initial sense of stability. What happened over the next few days caught me off guard. I wasn't measuring anything. I wasn't timing results. I was just paying attention to how my body felt as I moved through the day, and that's when I noticed it. My legs weren't filling up with that familiar heaviness by late afternoon. The tight feeling around my calves and ankles didn't show up the same way. My shoes felt looser. Not dramatically, but enough to make me stop and think. The biggest difference wasn't during the exercise itself. It was hours later, standing at the sink, walking from one room to another, getting up from a chair. My legs felt lighter, more responsive, almost as if circulation had finally caught up with movement. That warm, alive sensation I felt right after the exercise started lasting longer into the day. I realized something important in that moment. Circulation isn't just about movement, it's about muscle engagement. When the right muscles contract and release with control, they act like pumps, pushing blood back up and preventing that sluggish pooling that makes legs feel heavy and swollen. Walking moved my legs, but it didn't activate that pump effectively. This exercise did. Another subtle change showed up at night. I used to feel restless in my legs when I sat down to relax. That urge to shift, stretch, or prop my feet up. After a few days of this movement, that sensation softened. My legs felt calmer, more settled. And when I stood up after sitting for a while, they responded without that stiff, delayed feeling I had grown used to. What really convinced me was how predictable the improvement became. On days I skipped the exercise, the heaviness crept back sooner. On days I did it, my legs stayed lighter longer. That consistency told me this wasn't coincidence. It was cause and effect. Simple, repeatable, and under my control. That's when I understood I wasn't just reducing swelling, I was restoring flow. And when circulation improves, everything downstream changes. Strength feels more accessible, balance feels steadier, and movement stops feeling like something you have to manage carefully. Instead, it starts to feel natural again. And the most surprising part was what happened to my balance once that heaviness stopped interfering with how my feet met the ground. Once the heaviness in my legs began to fade, I noticed something even more important changing. I wasn't thinking about balance anymore. And that, I realized, was the real test. Balance isn't something you feel when it's working well. It's something you notice only when it starts to fail. And for the first time in a long while, my body was responding automatically again. It showed up in the simplest places, walking down the hallway at night without turning on extra lights, pivoting in the kitchen without grabbing the counter, stepping into the shower without that brief moment of hesitation. These weren't dramatic victories, but they mattered more than any long walk ever did. Because they meant my nervous system was waking up again. What changed wasn't just strength, it was coordination. The exercise forced my feet, ankles, and hips to communicate constantly. Small adjustments, micro corrections, the kind of signals that keep you upright when you stumble or turn too fast. Walking in a straight line never trained that. This movement did, every single time I practiced it. I also noticed my posture improving without effort. When circulation improved and my legs felt more stable, my body naturally stacked itself better. I stood taller. My steps felt quieter and more controlled. and that alone made me feel safer moving around my own home. Confidence didn't come from telling myself, be careful. It came from trusting my body again. There was one moment that really confirmed it for me. I stepped sideways to avoid an object on the floor, something that used to make me nervous. My body adjusted instantly. No pause, no stiff reaction, just balance doing what it's supposed to do. That's when I understood this wasn't about preventing falls through fear. It was about preventing falls through preparation. The exercise wasn't making me younger. It was making me more capable. It gave my legs the information they needed to respond quickly and smoothly. And that kind of balance doesn't just protect you physically. It changes how you live. You move more freely. You hesitate less. You stop shrinking your world. That's when I realized this wasn't just an exercise anymore. It had become part of how I protected my independence. And the way I started fitting it into my daily routine made all the difference. The biggest shift wasn't physical at first. It was mental. I stopped asking myself how much activity I was getting and started asking a better question. Does this help me live on my own, safely and confidently? That change in perspective altered everything. I wasn't chasing steps anymore. I was protecting function. As this exercise became part of my routine, I noticed how my days felt more predictable in a good way. My legs didn't surprise me anymore. I could trust how they would respond when I stood up, turned, or moved quickly. That trust is hard to explain unless you felt it slipping away. When it comes back, it changes how you carry yourself through the world. I also realized how small habits, done at the right time, matter more than big efforts done occasionally. This movement didn't exhaust me. It prepared me. I could do it in the morning to wake my legs up, or later in the day to reset circulation after sitting. It fit into my life instead of demanding that my life revolve around it. That's what made it sustainable. What surprised me most was how this one simple change affected other areas. I moved more during the day without forcing myself to. I walked with better posture. I felt steadier on uneven ground. Even my energy felt more balanced because my body wasn't constantly compensating for weak signals from my legs. Independence isn't just about avoiding hospitals or doctors. It's about being able to move through your home, your day, and your life without fear quietly shaping your decisions. When your legs are strong, your circulation is active, and your balance is reliable, you don't just stay active, you stay in control. That's the difference I felt. And it's why I believe this kind of movement matters so much after 60, not because it looks impressive, but because it protects the things that matter most long-term. Your confidence, your safety, your freedom. If you're still here with me, that tells me something important. It means you care about your legs, your balance, and your independence more than most people do. And that alone already puts you ahead. What we talked about in this video isn't about doing more, pushing harder, or pretending age doesn't exist. It's about choosing movements and habits that actually protect your ability to live on your own after 60. If this message resonated with you, I want you to do one simple thing right now. Leave a comment below and write the word steady. That lets me know you're committed to staying stable, confident, and in control of your body. I read those comments, and they help build a community of people who refuse to quietly lose their independence. If this video helped you see your body differently, take a second to hit the like button. It helps this message reach other people over 60 who are feeling the same changes but don't know where to start. And if you want more videos like this, focused on circulation, balance, simple movements, and real-life strength after 60, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. There's another video on your screen right now that builds directly on what we discussed today. It goes deeper into protecting your legs and balance with simple daily habits. Click it, keep learning, and keep taking control of how your body ages.